This is live breaking news for 420radio.org. I'm Russ Belville. We are covering live what will be the live stream press conference from the Medford Police Department on trafficking raid that just occurred against Southern Oregon NORML in Medford. And full disclosure, I should let you know that Lori Duckworth was the founding executive director of Southern Oregon NORML, a personal friend of mine, and I know many of the people involved. I have visited the Medford office many times, so just so everyone's clear about that. The latest information that we're getting, there's not a whole lot coming out from news. We're just still waiting for this press conference to take place before we'll find out. But this is the story that came from KTVL.com earlier today. Police serve search warrants in pot trafficking case. Drug investigators began serving 8 search warrants on 3 organizations starting at 11:15 a.m. today. Members of the Medford Area Drug and Gang Enforcement Team, as well as local, county, state, and federal law enforcement officers executed the warrants, according to a press release from the Drug and Gang Enforcement Team. The 8 warrants are linked to an investigation of 3 marijuana drug trafficking organizations. Police allege that the 3 organizations sold marijuana from storefronts within Jackson County. Law enforcement officials will hold a press conference at 3:30 p.m. at the Medford Police Department. At that time, police will release more details about the investigation, including arrests and locations. This will be live streamed, and it is 31 after here in the Pacific time zone. They're not quite live streaming yet, apparently, so we will maintain our situation here, await for this press conference. Also, I've put the word out to my followers on Twitter. If you have any direct knowledge of this, if you're in Southern Oregon, one of my friends down there, and you're not currently in handcuffs and can actually call, the phone number here is 971-533-7111. If anyone has any comments or any news that they can add to this situation. Again, breaking news out of Medford, Oregon. Brian, the Red's got something for us.
Oh, well, Calico Castile,
friend of the show.
Good friend, posted about 15 minutes ago that from Southern Oregon NORML, yes, they raided our offices and detained all of us, nearly 20 people. We were trying to raise bail money for Lee and Lori. Any amount will help. Contact me, 541-864-9641 if you can help. So, basically if you can help them raise some bail money, give a call to that number and get in touch with Southern Oregon NORML.
We'll get this link up in our chat room, and also after the show I'll have a little bit of time to put a page together and maybe help do some fundraising for our friends in Medford, Oregon, in Southern Oregon NORML, who've been raided by a multi-jurisdictional task force today. Important bit of news behind this, a little factoid that could help. This comes from our friend Herb Thrasher, who notes from the task force's website, quote, Jackson County is one of 9 counties in Oregon designated by the Office of National Drug Control Policy as a high-intensity drug trafficking area. As a result, this task force, known as MADGE, is one of these funded task force, and MADGE received $100,000 in funding from the ONDCP in 2012. The preliminary approval for 2013 has increased to $125,000. This shows you once again how there is a federal incentive for these local county and state officials to go after medical marijuana. The feds do not want it, and they want to do everything they can to shut it down. And when we're talking about an organization such as Southern Oregon NORML, which is not just involved with helping medical marijuana patients down there in Southern Oregon, but also informing them of their rights, educating them about marijuana prohibition, and pushing them for full legalization as the only way to truly protect patients, we can see how this has gone down. And it probably didn't help matters much that the Southern Oregon NORML office is right next door to the federal courthouse. It's literally right next door to the federal offices there. So kind of a finger in their eye, so to speak. But, of course, that doesn't warrant anyone getting busted for obeying the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. Again, we'll get more details on this as soon as we get the live news stream pop up. We will return to this feed and let you know what's happening. In the meantime, we're going to take a short little break. We'll come back with some rant, and we'll interrupt the rant as soon as the press conference goes live. You're watching Breaking News here on the Russ Belville Show, live from Rolla J Studios in Portland, Oregon on 420radio.org.
We've got audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
think we might have something starting to come in here, folks.
We'll be right back after these messages from...
There's no place in the state of Oregon where you can legally purchase marijuana. To grow in the medical marijuana field, under OMMP 475-300, you can be reimbursed as a grower for the cost of supplies and utilities associated with the production of medical marijuana, but that act does not allow reimbursement for labor or any other costs. So basically that's what investigation concerns, is delivery of marijuana for consideration or selling marijuana. So in that aspect of it, throughout the investigation, MADGE witnesses have made multiple controlled buys of marijuana from each of the listed businesses. Mike, if you would give them a copy of that when we're done here. But it outlines the locations where these storefronts were selling or distributing marijuana for consideration. Southern Oregon NORML, the 300 block of West 6th Street. Puff and Stuff, the 100 block of Clear Lake Avenue, number A in Medford. The Green Compass, which is the 1700 block of East McAndrews Road in Medford. And the Compass in the 500 block of 2nd Street in Gold Hill. So today, May 23rd, approximately 70 law enforcement officers from various local, county, state, and federal agencies assisted us. When I say us, I'm referring to MADGE, because MADGE is the county-wide drug and gang enforcement team here that is being housed at the Medford Police Department, serving 8 search warrants in Southern Oregon, 4 on Jackson County businesses, 3 on Jackson County residences, and a rural Josephine County property that I'll mention in a minute, all again involved in the delivery and manufacture of marijuana. In addition to the listed businesses that I mentioned, the first 4 that I talked about, search warrants were also executed at the following locations: the 3100 block of Hyacinth Avenue in Medford, the 2700 block of North Keene Way in Medford, the 2600 block of Tahitian Avenue in Medford, and the 3300 block of Dick George Road in Cave Junction, Oregon, which is in Josephine County. We're still in the process of seizing a significant amount of evidence that includes the following: marijuana plants, documentation, and weapons. A list of what will be seized and the locations where they were seized will be provided later, but right now this is still ongoing, so that total list of items seized isn't completed yet. So there will be a list provided once all that evidence is collected, documented, and stored. On May 22nd, 2013, the Jackson County Grand Jury issued arrest warrants for the following subjects: Lee Lori Duckworth, Dave Bond, and Michael Shano, for the listed charges and bail amounts that I'll go through in a minute. All 4 have been taken into custody and will be lodged at the Jackson County Jail on those following charges. So those are included with that as well. With me today is Lieutenant Brett Johnson, who is the commander of MADGE. He's also a Medford Police Lieutenant, and also with us is Ginger Greer, the Deputy District Attorney that will be prosecuting these cases. So I'm going to refer to them for specific questions if they can answer them. But David Bond was charged with conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school, marijuana, 4 counts, and conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery within 1,000 feet of a school, marijuana, 4 counts. His bail is $200,000. Laura Ruth Duckworth, charged with conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school, marijuana, 11 counts, and conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school, marijuana, an additional 11 counts, bail at $550,000. Leland Arden Duckworth, charged with conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school, 11 counts, and again, conspiracy to unlawful delivery of controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school, marijuana, 11 counts. His bail also $550,000. Michael Robert Shano, conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of controlled substance, marijuana, 4 counts. Conspiracy to commit unlawful delivery of controlled substance, marijuana, 4 additional counts. Unlawful delivery of marijuana and unlawful manufacture of marijuana, bail $550,000. I want to thank the following agencies. This couldn't have been done without their assistance, because when you have that many locations, that much evidence that you have to be obviously searching for, retrieving, logging, transporting, along with the interviewing of multiple people and the arrest of people on arrest warrants, it takes a huge effort. I can't thank the Jackson County District Attorney's Office enough, because they've been with us from the start of an 18-month investigation. The Oregon State Police, the Oregon Department of Justice, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Jackson County Community Justice, the Rogue Area Drug Enforcement Team, RAID, which is out of Josephine County, the Central Oregon Drug Enforcement Team, or CODE, which is out of Central Oregon, the Ashland Police Department, the Central Point Police Department, the Eagle Point Police Department, the Grants Pass Department of Public Safety, the Medford Police Department, the Phoenix Police Department, the Talent Police Department, the U.S. Homeland Security Investigations, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Investigation, as well as the U.S. Marshal Service. So, again, that is the group of agencies that pretty much consists of those 70 officers I mentioned previously. And again, this case remains under investigation. When you're serving search warrants, in addition to those arrest warrants, those search warrants are, again, to support the investigation, number one, but that information may spawn additional investigation or additional charges downstream. So that is yet to be seen, but that is certainly part of this investigation. So I'll certainly try to answer a question, or we'll have Lieutenant Johnson or Deputy Greer answer any questions you all have.
You mentioned the investigation was several years in the making. What can you tell us about the investigation that led to today? Well,
originally it was complaint-driven, subjects advising us that marijuana was being sold at these storefront locations. So, and drug investigations involve the use of informants. Some at times are named and some aren't named in this investigation. We do have testifying witnesses in these cases, so that will be the case. And in filing criminal charges, you have to have people to testify. You don't really have a case unless you have substantial evidence to support that without it. So that's a scenario in. But 18 months is when the first complaints came in, and this is where we're at today.
Well, was this something that just all of these locations happened to be in the investigation, or are they all related in some way?
I really can't speak to who's connected to who. Again, a lot of stuff being collected, a lot of evidence being collected, and those things come out downstream. Conspiracy charges are part of that. As far as the conspiratorial agreement and who's involved in that, we're not going to speak to that yet. Again, those are part and parcel to the criminal case that we prosecuted downstream.
What changes for the medical marijuana patients who maybe use those facilities? For now, are those facilities remain closed, or what's going to be happening with those facilities? Are they shut down?
I can't speak to the facilities. You folks could investigate that yourself, whether there's other folks that would continue to run those operations. Obviously, folks can't continue to operate in the mode in which they were selling marijuana, because that's a violation of Oregon law, and that's where we got to at this point. But if there are other services that those groups or businesses are providing, they can still provide those. But you'll have to investigate as whether or not they're going to be open for whatever business they do tomorrow or the next day.
Do you have an idea of how much, a general ballpark on how much marijuana you guys found today?
It's real early. We've found plants, we've found processed marijuana, but I haven't got any, except scant reports that I wouldn't even put out at this point. So at the end of the day, we'll have everything coming in. It's a lot of folks doing a lot of investigations, a lot of moving parts, and so we don't want to speculate. We'll give you a final ballpark with a press release when it's all done at this point. But there's going to be a lot of work to do after that. With an investigation like this, you're looking at a lot of electronic processing, documents, those things. So it's just this is the initial stage.
And obviously, you saw it when you came here. There's people outside that are upset that obviously are either connected with these individuals or connected with the marijuana movement or the legalization of marijuana. This isn't a debate on the legalization of marijuana. It's not a debate on the OMMP program or people's medicine. This is pretty specific about state law and the violation of that. You can't sell a drug. You can't sell a controlled substance in the state. You can't sell marijuana, and that is the criminal charge, and that's what we're dealing with, and that's what these people will be held accountable for as far as the delivery, manufacture for unlawful purposes, some within 1,000 feet of a school, some aren't. But again, the folks that you saw outside have a right to express themselves and lawful assembly to express their views, but that argument isn't what we are about today. That argument can take place when officers are off duty and when we're off-site here, and that is a totally different ballgame than what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a violation of Oregon law where you cannot sell marijuana, period. You can't. It is illegal under federal law, illegal under state law to do that.
Some of the raids on the farms over the last couple of years have resulted in federal charges. Do you see the federal nexus here? I don't imagine it's a federal agent.
These are state warrants, and state charges. The arrest indictments were under state law, and you know, I wouldn't speculate on whether or not the federal government would look at it or not. But this is all as you know, as Chief mentioned, the prohibition of selling marijuana is outright in federal law. In state law, there are some limited immunities provided by the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. In all these cases, we found that these folks were all acting outside of those limited immunities.
With this having they've got dispensaries that they've been talking about at legislative, and I understand that this isn't about that so much, but it's today specific for any reason?
No.
In regards to that, today just was the culmination of evidence?
It's taken a long time, and I'm sure Deputy Ager and Lieutenant Johnson can tell you how long these types of investigations take. I've been apprised of this as it's going on for months, and again, I think the public doesn't realize how long-term investigations take and how much time, energy, effort go into it. You see the culmination of events on a day like today when we have to gather enough personnel to pull something off, because if people find out, they may take measures to try and reduce their culpability or destroy evidence or whatever. So people say, well, why do you do it all at once? Why do you do the big show? Why do you do this? Well, in large investigations where there's certainly the chance that you could lose evidence if you take action here and not take action here, there has to be a combined, organized effort to do that in order to make your case better. And that's the business that we're in, is to enforce Oregon law, number one. And if we have a criminal case, want to present the best case possible to the DA's office. So as far as timing on what day it is, what time it is, there's a lot of investigative tactics involved in when you do it and how you do it, and that concerns the work that we've done previously about when people are at certain places, when they're not at certain places, when things are open, when things aren't open, when business is done, when business wasn't done. So there's a lot of tactical things that we get to decide because it's our case.
Did you guys know there was a memorial in there today, and maybe that helped out knowing when people would be there?
I'm not familiar with the memorial that you're talking about.
No.
That was something I was thinking.
She's referring to there was a memorial at Southern Oregon NORML today, apparently, for a friend that had passed away. And it came as quite a surprise to all of us.
Okay. I was just wondering if that was part of the tactics.
I mean, I'd certainly apologize if we stepped in the middle of a memorial for a death. Certainly not trying to be cold-hearted or to step in someone's way that's honoring the dead. But I wasn't aware of that, and I don't think anybody else was either.
When we set up the date, when you bring this many people together, you have to set out a date a ways away so that you can marshal these kind of resources. And in doing so, we certainly weren't looking to try to capitalize on anything like a memorial.
Last question
Sure.
for me. Also, how much does it cost for a large-scale operation like this to pull off?
Well, I can't put a dollar figure on that. I mean, there's a reciprocal agreement with agencies that we deal with. I mean, we assisted Klamath Falls last week in an event that occurred there because they needed additional resources. So we went to Klamath Falls. We enlisted the resources from Code from Central Oregon that came over here to help us, along with Justin McKinney. So there's a I wouldn't say services agreement, but at least a reciprocal agreement, a gentleman's agreement in the business that we are in, that if someone needs assistance and it's reasonable for us to help them, that we will do that, and we will ask for the same thing in return. So obviously there are some people that are going to work overtime on this. There's a lot of people here that were working on a regular shift. So I mean, I really couldn't put a dollar figure to it, but as far as the business that we are in, this is expected as far as when you're budgeting for a 1 or 2 year budget, that you're going to have to budget for those type of things based on historical data and based on the type of work that we do.
Chief, the control buys that you're talking about, did those happen at both the dispensaries and these personal residences?
This case is all about purchases that were made at the storefronts, and then the additional search warrants were in support of that. In a lot of cases, when people are selling marijuana, they might have a grow site off their other sites. So, yes, our purchases were from the storefronts.
From the stores.
From the dispensary storefronts.
But obviously, in those type of investigations, if there's information that leads you to believe there's evidence at other locations in reference to that crime, you can establish probable cause and affidavit to request a warrant for an off-site location to collect evidence of that crime. You're allowed to do that. That's how we end up in other locations.
You said weapons. In Any weapons in particular, any guns, knives?
We have some firearms that have been recovered. I don't have numbers for specific locations, so I'll put that out and tie it to the specific location so that you can get a picture of that. When we put out the release to y'all folks that we were going to do this at 3:30, we jumped off at about 11, between 11 and 11:30 today is when we jumped off in unison. I think that initial release went out to you folks probably around 12:30. This is still going. We still have a lot of people out at locations, still doing a lot of collection. So as far as being able to get it so the TV folks can get it done before the 5 o'clock shout out is the best we could do. 3:30 is about as late as we could pull this off and still do it. Jamie, you got a question?
I'm good. Okay. All right, thanks for coming. Make sure you get a hard copy of that. Thank you. I apologize for anything that's happening out in the hallway. That wasn't the intent.
That's the police apologizing for interrupting the memorial service for a Southern Oregon NORML member in their raids against Southern Oregon NORML. This is breaking news at 420radio.org. For those of you who came in late, we will be replaying this episode in just 2 hours. It will start at 6 p.m. Pacific time, so the press conference begins at 6:30. I think we missed the first minute, perhaps. Some interesting notes from the press conference. Nice to hear him talk about the business they are in. They usually don't give it away so easily, but the business they are in, like our chat room points out, you are a paid public servant. You're not in a business. Some other notes here. When asked how much these raids cost, the police said they couldn't put a dollar figure on it. It might have cost something. And lots of overtime they mentioned. Also, these charges were for violations of state law. And when asked if there was any coincidence that they go through these task force raids at the same time the legislature is debating a dispensary bill, they respond that no, these kind of raids are set up in the long term. Takes a long time to set the date. Also, the police wanted to point out they weren't arguing about medical marijuana or legalization. This is just about the state law that you cannot sell marijuana. And the cops also said you obviously saw people outside who were upset. Those are probably protesters out there, and I imagine there will be more. And the most disconcerting and upsetting news to me, my friend, someone who I counseled and someone who I didn't recruit her, but I definitely mentored her in my time as the NORML outreach director. Lori Duckworth, the executive director of Southern Oregon NORML, has been charged with 11 counts of trafficking, is being held on a $550,000 bail. In response to that, there's only one song I can play.
Fuck the police.